beautiful people, welcome to Remi's Fashion. My name is Remi. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft a palazzo trousers or pants. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is to draw out a starting point. So this is my starting point. I'm going to be taking all my measurements from this point. This palazzo trousers is going to have a waistband of 1.5 inch. If you want to have 2 inches, that's fine. So I'm going to be using 1.5. So I'm going to place my tape on this starting point, and then I'll take all my vertical measurements from there. When we finish this, then you can draft out your waistband of 1.5 or whatever you left. The first vertical measurement I'm going to measure is from my waist. So this starting point is going to be my waist. So from my waist to my hip, for me that measurement is 9 inches, and I'll mark. From my waist to my crotch, so that measurement for me is 12 inches. So in order to get the 9 inches for your hip, you take your tape and measure from your waist down to your hip. And then for the crotch depth, you sit on a flat surface and then take your measurement from where you want your trouser to start from up to the flat surface. That is how you get your crotch depth. That measurement for me is 12 inches. And then I'll measure it out on this other side as well. And I will draw a horizontal line. So the next vertical measurement is your thigh line. So I'm going to measure from my crotch depth 2.5 inches. So measurement from your crotch is usually 2 to 3 inches down. So but I'm going to be using 2.5 inches, and I'll mark. And then I'll draw a horizontal line to connect my points. The next vertical measurement is from my waist to my knee. So mine is 22 inches. So I'll take my measurement from my waist like this to my knee, 22 inches. That puts me here, and I'll mark. I'll also draw a horizontal line to connect my points. Join Remi's Fashion YouTube membership. Want to take your sewing skills to the next level? What if you could get exclusive tutorials, secret sewing tips, and even free PDF patterns? Well, guess what? You can. Hello sewing friends, my name is Remi, and first off, I just want to say a big thank you. Seriously, whether you're watching, liking, or commenting on my videos, I truly appreciate you. And today, I want to invite you to be part of something special, Remi's Fashion YouTube membership. Why join? Becoming a Remi's Fashion member is like joining an exclusive sewing club where you get early access to my videos before anyone else, PDF guides and instruction sheets to help you master pattern drafting, members only tutorial videos just for you, discounts on my PDF sewing patterns, and sometimes you even get them for free. Faster replies to your questions so you get the help you need quickly. But wait, there is more. We have 3 membership tiers so you can pick the one that fits you best. A little sneak peek, members also get to see behind the scenes of my upcoming projects before they go live. How to join? Joining is super easy. Just click the join button below this video or check the description box for the membership link. If you're already a member, thank you so much. Your support means the world to me. So are you ready to level up your sewing game? Click join and let's create beautiful fashion together. So the next vertical measurement is the length of my trousers. For my palazzo, I like my trousers very long. So it will depend on the length you prefer. I'm going to be drafting a long palazzo pants, and I will take my measurements. I want mine to be 43 inches. I'll measure and I'll mark. And then I'm just going to label my points. So So I'm going to be starting from my hip line. My hip circumference measurement is 47 inches. And by the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 11.75 inches. So I'm going to mark that 11.75 inches on my hip line, my crotch depth, and on my waistline. I'm just going to draw a vertical line to connect all these points. So after doing this, the next thing we're going to do now is to work on our crotch extension. So to get my crotch extension, whatever you have here, mine is 11.75. I will divide it by 4. So 11.75. So whatever you have, divide it by 4. Mine is 11.75 divided by 4. It's going to give me 2.9 inches. So from here now, I'm going to measure 2.9 inches on here and I'll mark. So this is my crotch extension. So now I want to draw up my crotch curve. To get this crotch extension, you can also divide your circumference measurement, that's your hip circumference measurement, by 16. It's going to give you the same thing. So whichever one you decide to do. So in order to draw out my crotch extension, I'm going to measure 1 inch at a 45-degree angle. 1 inch at a 45-degree angle. And I'll mark. Okay, so measure 2 1/4 inches upwards and mark. And then you can draw out your curve by using these guidelines. So I'm going to be drawing out my curve using these 3 guidelines. So this is my crotch curve. So the next thing we need to do now is to work on the waistline. So from the waistline, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. I want to remove the bulge. Sometimes you see some bulge in front of your trousers. This is to eliminate it. Once I do this, I'm going to go down by 1/2 inch as well. I'll go down by 1/2 inch. I'm going to square it down. Just draw a line like this. And then I'll connect it to my hip line like this. Okay, so this is my 1/2 inch. So the next thing I need to do is to plot in my circumference measurement. My waist circumference measurement is 38 inches. By the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 9.5 inches. So I'm going to measure from here, from this point now, 9.5 inches. That puts me here. I want to have that in this pattern. Okay, so I'm going to measure 1 inch dart allowance. That puts me here. So from here now, I'm going to connect to the hip line. So this now has a 1 inch dart allowance. And then from this 1 inch that we came down, this is the waist shaping for the front, this and this. So I'm going to connect from here all the way down to this part. So this is my waist shaping for the front. After doing this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to draft out our darts. I'm going to be creating a 1 inch dart. And that dart is my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm going to place that dart on my nipple to nipple measurement. So mine is 4.5 inches and I'll mark. And then I want a 4 inches long dart. So that puts me here. That's 4 inches. I'm going to draw a straight line to connect. I'm going to open up the dart by 1/2 inch on each side. Remember, we left a 1 inch dart. So 1/2 inch on each side. So that's a total of 1 inch, 1/2 inch on each side. That puts me here. I'm going to draw a straight line. I'm going to square it down. This waist shaping is going to be cut off. And I still want my dart to be 1 inch. So from here to here is still 1 inch. Then I will connect. So this is our waist done. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to be dividing this trouser block into 2 equal halves. We're going to be using our crotch line. So measure what you have on your crotch line and divide it by 2 equal halves. So whatever you have, you measure it out and then you divide it. So I'm going to measure and divide these trousers into 2. On my crotch line, my thigh line, my knee line, and my hem line. And I will use my long ruler to connect all my points. So what we're going to do now is whatever your circumference measurements are, like the bottom part of your circumference measurement, your knee and your hemline, you're going to divide it into 2. And we're going to be plotting it on here equally, like we're going to distribute it equally. If your knee circumference measurement is 28, divided by 2 is 14. So that 14, we're going to share 14 between the knee on the 2 sides. So we'll put 7 here, I'll put 7 here. The same thing we'll do for the hemline as well. So for the thigh line, I'm just going to measure whatever my thigh line is, and I'm I'm going to plot it in. I'm not going to share it equally because even if your front does not accommodate your tie, don't forget the back pattern is going to be bigger. So if you measure your tie and your tie is not coming on this pattern, it's going to be outside this line that we drew. Don't worry about it. So just measure your tie and plot it in, right? Then by the time we draw out our back pattern, it's going to accommodate it because the back is always bigger than the front. My tie measurement is 28 inches. By the time I divide that by 4, it's going to give me 14 inches. I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance, and that's going to give me 15 inches. So this is my tie line. I'm just going to measure 15 inches and I will just mark. Like I said, I'm not going to be using it. I'm just marking it out like this. Okay, so you don't even need it right now. You will see that by the time we draft out the back trouser will accommodate the tie completely. So for my knee line now, from the knee line and the hem line, I'm going to distribute them equally. And because you're drafting a palazzo, so the bottom is usually bigger. This top part is fitted. So we've done all our fitting at the top here. So this part now, you take your measurement how you want it to be. So the next one I'm going to be calculating is that of my knee. So for my knee, I want to use 26 inches. So that's divided by 2, that's 13 inches. So if I divide that 13 inches into 2 equal halves, it's going to give me 6.5 inches. I'm going to distribute 13 inches on my knee line. So that's 6.5, 13 inches. So that puts me here, and 6.5 puts me here. And then I'm going to do the same thing for my hem line. Distribute 13 inches. So that's 6.5 inches on each side of my hem line. So I'm now going to connect. I'll connect using my long ruler from my knee to my hem. Like this. And then I'll use my leg curve to connect to my knee. And then I'll do the same thing on this side. And then I'll connect to the top. So after getting this, the next thing I need to do is to cut out. You can decide how wide you want yours to be. You can decide to make yours narrower. You can decide to make it wider. So I like mine like this, and I like the top fitted and the bottom wider. So I can still decide to reduce the knee line. I can still decide to do that. It's up to you, whatever you prefer to do. So now I'm just going to label. This is my front pattern. And I'm going to write Palazzo on it. So that when I take this pattern, I know exactly what it is. This is what we're connecting. So this is our 13 inches. So we're connecting this part to this part. So just make sure you're connecting the right measurements. So I'm going to shave up this. So this is our front pattern. So the next thing we're going to do now is to draft the back. We're going to be using the front pattern to draft the back. So this is my front pattern, and I have traced it onto another pattern paper. So I have traced it onto another pattern paper. So I'm going to be drafting from here, okay? So I'm going to use a red marker so that you can see the difference between the front and the back, so that you can see it clearly, so that you will not get confused. So the black marker is the front pattern. Then I'll use the red marker to draft out the back on the front pattern. So we're using the front to draft the back. So the first thing I'm going to do now is the back is going to be bigger than the front, and I want to increase the sides. I'm going to increase the sides, and I'm also going to increase the center back. So now this is the side and this is the center back. So I'm just going to bump up this pattern. So first thing I'm going to do now is to increase this side by ½ an inch. So I want my back pattern to be 1 inch bigger than my front pattern. So follow the curves as you're marking. Do not lose the curves. So I'm now going to connect them. After doing this, the next thing I'm going to do is at the top here, that's my center back, I'm going to increase it. This is to enable us so that when you sit, your trousers is not dipping down, it's covering up your bum. So usually some people will use 1 inch, 1.5, but it all depends on you. Try different numbers and you will decide exactly which one is going to be best for you. I usually use 2 inches. So with 2 inches, I'm okay. So you decide what is best for you. So I'm going to be using 2 inches to go up here. So I'm going to go up by 2 inches. And then from that 2 inches here, so I'm going to draw a straight line upwards. And then from there, I'm going to connect to meet this side back. So this is my waist shaping for the back. So just make sure when you're placing your pattern, your front pattern on another pattern paper to trace out, you're leaving space between here, the 2 sides and at the top, so that you have enough space to work on. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, I'm still working on my waist. I'm going to plot in my waist circumference measurement. So whatever yours is, you plot it in. Mine is 9.5 inches. So I'm just going to measure, and I'm going to be measuring from my side. So, and I'm going to be measuring from this point where I increase it by ½ an inch. So 9.5 inches is my waist circumference measurement. So 9.5 inches puts me here, and I'll mark. And I'm going to be adding 1 inch dart. I want that for my back as well. So I'm just going to be adding 1 inch dart, and this is my dart. Okay, so I will mark that. So just mark it out. So this is where I'm going to draw my waistline. So my dart is going to be a length of 4 inches, just like I did for my back. 4 inches down. So that's the length of my dart. So 4 inches down puts me here. And then I'll draw my dart line. Just make sure your dart line is straight, it's not bent. Since I made provision for 1 inch, so I'm going to be drawing out a 1 inch dart. So I'm going to open it up on the waistline, ½ an inch on each side. So that's a total of 1 inch. And I will draw out my dart legs. This is my dart. So the next thing is to work on the hip. So now, but because we've added this ½ an inch, I'm just always going to be working from this ½ an inch. So my hip circumference measurement after calculation is 11.75 inches. So you divide your circumference measurement by 4. Whatever you get is your hip circumference measurement. So mine is 11.75. So 11.75 puts me here, and I'm going to mark. So the next one we're going to be working on is the crotch area. So with the back crotch, we're going to be dropping it down by ½ an inch because it's definitely deeper. It's deeper than the front. So this back, we're going to drop it by ½ an inch. This is to accommodate the bum part as well. So I'm just going to rule a line. This is ½ an inch. So this is my crotch line for the back. And then to extend my crotch line, I'm going to extend it by 2 inches. So I've extended that by 2 inches. So that's it. That's that one. So the next thing I need to do now is to draw a 1.5 inch at a 45-degree angle. And I'll put a dot there. So the next thing I need to connect now is to connect from here, to this one, and to this one. Okay, so I will draw a straight line down from here to here. That's from the waistline to the hip line. I'll draw a straight line. I will now connect my points. I want to draw out a curve. And then I want this part to be a curve as well. So this is my curve. If it's not smooth, you blend it nicely. This is my back crotch curve. The next thing I'm going to do now is to work on the knee and the hemline. So with the knee, I'm going to still increase mine by ½ an inch. If you don't want your trousers too wide, you can reduce the amount. But I'm doing mine by ½ an inch. And then I'm going to connect. So I will now use my leg curve, and then I'm going to connect from my curve extension to this point, to the knee. And then you can blend this in nicely. And then this is my tie line. So by the time you check now, you have so much space for your tie. Mine was 30 inches, divided by 2 was 15 inches. In the front, I didn't have the room, but now 15 inches, see? So I have so much room. This is 15 inches. So whatever is left, you still have so much room. you have to cover the front and also have seam allowance as well. So the next thing I need to do now is to add my zipper allowance. If you're going to be putting zipper at the back, you can add zipper allowance at the back. So for this particular trousers I'm making, I'm going to be adding zipper allowance at the back. You can decide you want to add an invisible zip on the side. That way you don't need to add the zipper allowance, but I'm just going to draft it out anyway. So it's going to be 1 inch. So 1 inch, that's here. I'm going to measure out 1 inch at the top as well. And then I'm going to connect. So you're measuring out your zipper. Don't forget you have your band as well. So I'm going to measure out 10 inches. So, and I'll put 1.5 on my waistline and I'll measure out 10 inches. And 10 inches puts me here. So I'll cover it up and I'll cover it up at the top as well. I'm not using that line. So this is our zipper allowance. And then by the time you measure out your tie, mine is 15 inches from that point. 15 inches, I have more than enough. This is 15 inches and then enough to cover up the fronts, and you have more than enough. If you think that's too much, you can actually narrow it down. You can reduce it by a few, but I'm going to leave mine like this. It's always advisable when you create a new pattern, you do a test fit. You cut it on a muslin, that's a calico, and then you see what the fit is. And then you can make your adjustments from there. Once you make your adjustments on the trousers you've made, you can now transfer that adjustment to your pattern. The first pattern you make is not your final pattern. I have tested this one. I have used it a few times and it fits me. So you can do your own adjustments as well. So I'm going to be adding all my sewing allowances when I'm cutting on fabric. So this is my back palazzo pattern. So now I'm going to write back pattern palazzo. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out this pattern. So these are both my front and back patterns. So that's the front and this is the back. So with these, we have come to the end of this tutorial. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Please give me a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. And for those that have subscribed, thank you so much for your support. I do not take it for granted. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.